Hello, and welcome to July's energy update. I can't believe we're already in July. It's wild. But before I get started, I want to invite you to tune in to the reading within the reading. So, the reading that lands inside you, right? Like the unique parts of this that stand out for you and how they land in your system, even if it's a little different than what I'm offering. So, yeah, just trust your instincts on what in this is for you. So, the theme for July is emergence, and the sub themes are trust fall, pattern leaping, stepping out of comfort zone, shedding old skin, shape-shifting, letting go, and new opportunity. The imagery that I was given for this month was a cat leaping really far, farther than you might think it'd be able to, and literally jumping out of its skin in the process. I know this is kind of strange, but I think for me it conveys a few different themes. So there's this sense of a deeply initiatory leap of faith that transforms us, that sheds our skin and allows us to become something else. And this is accompanied by the cat-like theme. So for me with cats, also this was a black cat, by the way, but I think about boundaries, independence, and intuition in particular. So not all cats, but cats in general are known for being very particular about how they socialize with humans. They have a really strong sense of when they want to be touched, where, and when they don't, and they'll let you know. Compared to dogs, they're known for being independent, sometimes a bit aloof, and also very in tune with the unseen realms, as well as their own instincts. So this month, we're being initiated in a way that might play upon these themes and call on us to embrace these feline tendencies within ourselves, particularly as it relates to trusting our own instincts, our boundaries, especially our social boundaries, and our gut knowings. And there might be some people who won't understand or won't like our choices. Our choices and our needs might not align with the preferences and the desires of the people around us, and in potentially small or bigger ways. And I think for some of us, part of the initiation this month will be to face our fears around this. So part of what is emerging for us this month is this knowingness, this greater intimacy with our boundaries and needs, the needs of our heart that necessitate some form of change. And it's twofold, because there's also a lot of support energetically this month gathering around us, containing these changes, and the potential for change and transformation is really strong as we take these leaps of faith, whether they're leaps or steps or something that's deeply internal. There's a lot of possibility for support and going further than you think you might be able to. So yeah, I think for many of us, our feelings that come up, our ideas, our expectations about what might be possible this month might be more limited than what actually is. And that's important to try to tune into and keep in mind if possible. So the card for the month is the Two of Wands reversed. And I feel this card as more of a backdrop for the rest of the reading, something we can tune into to kind of anchor our energy. So like the cat, the Two of Wands is inviting us to stay closely in touch with our inner spirit and to kind of read the flames of our own internal fire, and to ask ourselves, as much as we're able to, does this feel good? Does this feel right? Do I have the energy or the capacity for this right now? Is this in my highest and best? And to just remember to take that pulse as much as possible and try to be open to entering into that sort of relationship with yourself this month. So underneath the Two of Wands, we have the Eight of Cups, the Chariot reversed, and the Emperor. So for a lot of us, I think that the changes that we are drawn to initiate or explore this month might involve us walking away from something, releasing something, ending some cycle. And this might be something that feels pretty familiar, and there might be a sense of comfort to it that might make it challenging to think about changing or leaving. This could be a pattern, a habit, a way of thinking about things, but it also might be a relationship, a social environment, a friend, a job. And I am getting the sense that for many of us, these changes will have to do with relationships in some way with the people in our lives. So for some of us, this could mean that a relationship or a friendship is no longer working out for us, isn't healthy for us anymore. And of course, it could be anything, and it could be completely internal, but we do have the card of loneliness here. And I feel that in some way, for many of us, there might be a social theme to these changes. But the loneliness could be incidental for you. It could be more abstractly related to this change, or it could just be happening alongside these changes. But, one example that doesn't have to do with walking away from some sort of concrete external thing is that it could be that what we are leaving behind and starting to come into greater awareness around our need to leave behind is perhaps the patterns that we have around our loneliness. For example, maybe we've really been longing for partnership or for a greater sense of community. And this month we're being initiated into a new relationship with our fears, with these feelings or fears of loneliness, where we're actually starting to make changes in the direction of seeking these things. And we might have a lot of feelings come up naturally as we do this. Another example could be that we're moving and we're leaving behind a lot of people, and there's just a lot of change happening in the field of our relationships, But what we're really invited to keep our eyes on this month is, like I said, just making space for the needs of the heart and trying our best to honor those needs and those yearnings, even if they're scary. So we have these cards of loneliness, failure, and facing your fears. So whether we're walking away from a relationship or a place of living, or maybe we're dismantling some form of our own patterns or our own stagnation, I think it's going to be really important this month to actively hold space for and consciously engage our fears and our big feelings. So, it might bring up a lot of fear or grief. And for some of us, it might be this feeling that we somehow don't have the right, or that we aren't valid in this change that's happening or that we might want to make, and it's just not true. And we have the card of the Emperor here, and for me, the Emperor is really about honoring the self, about embodying the fact, the truth, that you have a right to be here, that your needs matter, that your experience is valid, and that you deserve to take up space in the ways that feel most aligned for you, and in the ways that honor and reflect your needs, especially. So for me, the Emperor often comes up when I'm feeling, a lot of times more subconsciously, that my needs aren't valid enough for me to take care of them. And a lot of times, for me personally, this happens when I'm in some sort of a situation or a context where the people around me aren't really able to validate my needs, or my needs don't line up with what they want, with what they're wanting to have happen. And I'm feeling that tension, that very real tension, and I'm struggling with it, and I'm struggling to not internalize it. So I feel like this card for me is really an ally for that sort of experience. And it says that it reminds us that our needs are our needs, and that there's times when the body, the heart, the inner spirit bubbles up inside to whisper, or not, or to scream, this is important, this is a boundary, this needs to change. The heart knows. And this month, it's really important to listen to these heart nudges, to acknowledge them when we feel them, and to allow ourselves the grace and honestly just the space to be with them, to not brush them off, but to actually sit with ourselves and give ourselves space to process what's happening inside, right? How we actually feel, and how that aligns with the intuitive nudges we've been getting from our hearts. And so with this Chariot card, we're not just potentially walking away from a situation, a dynamic, a relationship, but we're graduating from a chapter of our lives and entering into another. So whether this is a person that you might be experiencing change around, or something within the scope of your own behavior, there's a deeper pattern here that we are graduating from, a cycle that we're completing. And I think, it might be helpful to kind of draw our attention to that, to this deeper pattern shifting that's happening as we also process what's going on in a more surface level, so that we can contextualize it in relation to this deeper form of personal growth that is happening. And one thing that I'll note with the Chariot is that this form of graduation can sometimes be kind of subtle and nuanced. So it might not be for everybody, but I want to note this because often there's a stereotype with the Chariot that there's something kind of familiar and okay about what we're graduating from. Like on the surface, the situation might look fine. It might feel really comfortable to the ego, but the heart knows that it's not working. The heart knows that for whatever reason, something needs to change. And so we can find ourselves sometimes grappling with this inner truth and, kind of experiencing it as a point of tension where we're feeling this need to graduate from something and it's challenging. And again, it might be that it's hard to walk away from something like a person or a situation, but it also might be that it's hard to walk out of our comfort zone, right? And often those things are the same thing. So, and the Chariot card is reversed, and for me, a lot of times that just means that I'm deeply in it. I'm in the medicine, and I might not be entirely ready to make the change. I might be resisting it. And I think that it's a process. I do feel like this whole reading, everything that it's speaking to is something that may be a process for us, and we're going to be going through the layers of this within ourselves in order to allow this readiness for change, whatever change it might be, to fully emerge and to healthfully emerge. So I want to touch a little bit on this failure thing, in part just because it's a terrifying card to receive in a reading. But I think that this card is speaking to the truth that from a certain perspective, there is no such thing as failure, right? And I think like last month, we're being invited to kind of deepen into a new perspective, a deeper perspective around why things happen the way they do. And we're being invited to remain open to, as much as we're able to, of course, the changes that are taking place that we feel building within us, and to release ourselves and others from the kind of intense blame or responsibility that we can have, that we can feel for things quote unquote going wrong. I'm thinking about how one of my teachers used to say, forgive yourself for needing to learn hard lessons. So that can be part of this. And I think that there's a lot of grace available to us this month to step into a place of deeper neutrality and acceptance of the things that have happened or are happening for us. And from this place of active surrender, sinking into that deeper current of life, we might have a little bit of an easier time honoring when things don't line up or happen in the way that we want them to. And I do think that we're being invited to explore or be open to the idea that while our experiences of failure might be valid, on a deeper level, that's not really what's happening. And to be open to the idea that there is a deeper current guiding us that ultimately transcends the labels we might put on it, right? As we're experiencing things from our perspective. And yeah, I just think that there may be more grace available for us this month in terms of how we relate to change, and especially how we relate to change that feels scary or maybe feels like something's not going right or not going how we wanted it to. And part of this grace energy this month might manifest as forgiveness, both for ourselves in relation to ourselves and potentially other people, as things are playing out, but also from the past. Forgiveness can be a touchy topic, and of course it doesn't mean condoning or allowing behavior or people or dynamics to be in your life. But there's something here this month around forgiveness. And, for me, it feels like forgiveness is more accessible, kind of makes more sense when I'm able to be touched by the truth that other people's behavior isn't personal. It's about them, it's about what they've got going on, and usually the more I'm able to truly appreciate that and see that, the deeper that I'm able to kind of release the sort of hold that the pain or the experience has over me. And that's really, I think, what part of what, we're being supported in, right, is releasing this attachment and this weight that we may be carrying, and sometimes nothing feels like it's enough, and it really can feel like a choice that we make, a leap to kind of say, like, I don't know how, but I want to be free of this. I want to let this go. And I think that willingness is everything, and maybe really something that we can lean into if it feels right, of course, for us this month, because it can really ripple out and usher in forces to help guide us on our own path of release that makes sense to us, that is authentic for us. And I'm not here to say that anyone should forgive anyone at all, and I'm not saying that it should be your end goal, but rather just that there may be support this month for freeing yourself from some of the weight that you might be carrying from the past. And I am here to say that you deserve that you deserve to be free. And the other aspect of forgiveness that I feel coming up potentially is forgiving ourselves, Often when we walk away from something, it's really hard to not feel guilty and to feel bad, even if it's the right thing to do for us. And especially if we're taking a leap of faith. And, I think often following these heart nudges feels that way. And that's part of why it's so scary. and hard. And that's also part of why some people never do make those changes, or they wait for so long. You know, it's like trusting your heart when your mind is not fully convinced. And it's so, so important in these situations to literally cultivate the self-love, to give the love to give to yourself, and the strength through hurting or disappointing someone. And I do think that that's part of why this card is showing up here, to remind ourselves that we are worthy of that love, even if a situation is really challenging and maybe the other people involved are unhappy or hurt or disappointed with the changes that we're making. And another part of this, I think I touched on this, but basically just there might be more space available this month for us to kind of perceive things through a sense of neutrality when it comes to these yearnings of the heart, right? And to kind of trust that they're not personal, and that your heart has a blueprint of what's best for you. And what's best for you, ultimately, when we're talking about these sacred heart nudges, is in alignment with the greater good of the people around you. Even if it looks like a change that is upsetting or hurtful, you know? And yeah, just cultivating, opening to the possibility that these changes are okay, you know? Yeah, I think that all of these tough cards are here really to just remind us to be really gentle with ourselves. You know, change, any form of ending, even just endings within ourselves, stepping into a new era of our lives, stepping into a new habit. It can bring up feelings of guilt, of failure for where we're at, of fears of loneliness if maybe we're walking away from a situation that really brings up these fears of loneliness, and like we'll never meet somebody else, or we'll never find what we're wanting, you know? And it's not true. None of it's true. And I think that that's why these cards are here, to really help us remember that and to put it in our faces, and to encourage us to do that within ourselves. You know, it's like a kind of a form of shadow work, really, but just to consciously engage our fears and our feelings around whatever's going on. I think that there's going to be a lot of power in that this month. You know, and just giving ourselves so much grace and forgiveness, and to the people around us as well, if we're able to, you know, as we navigate these ripples of change that are really emanating from our own heart. And the last thing I want to touch on is this sense of possibility this month. So in this reading, there's 3 cards that point to a new opportunity coming in, a rare opportunity. So we have the Blue Moon card, which is about a rare opportunity, right? Like a blue moon. I think they only happen every 2.5 years, but I could be wrong about that. Yeah, and then I thought I would pull a card from this self-care deck that I have. You know, we have so many tough cards in this reading. I was like, maybe we can kind of ground ourselves into a gentle, inspired form of self-care. But the card that I got from the self-care deck is the card of opportunity. So that's a pretty strong double message there about some form of opportunity coming in. The back of that card says basically like let go of the past so you can embrace the new. And I do think this is just generally right, this pattern, this chapter, the switching of chapters. And then we also have the card of the air dragon. And this card is about sudden insight and inspiration. Definitely something new, emerging, quickly coming in. So, yeah, I think this opportunity for us this month is linked to our honoring what needs to change or what is changing. And I know it's cliche, but it really is that maxim of like one door closes, another opens. And I'll just say here that I'm sure many of you know this and are in touch with this, but sometimes from an energetic standpoint, we really do need to release something or close a door, whether within ourselves or relationally or in the external, in order for that new opportunity to come in. And that is the feeling that I'm getting this month. Like there is the the doors that are opening for us this month and going forward as we move through these themes are very profound, very important, and ultimately supportive of our highest good. There are opportunities being orchestrated for us, and I do think that this loneliness card, this failure card, these cards are coming up to remind us like these changes, these feelings are not indications of failure or things going wrong, even if that's what it feels like. We are moving toward things that are best for us, and there are new opportunities on the other side of our fears, of our comfort zone, our sense of failure or loneliness. And while these feelings are always valid, and it's important to embrace them and let them move through us, they are not the end-all be-all. And I think we're really being reminded to remain open to the new and to contextualize, work with, and reframe these fears and feelings as they come up so that we might remain even just a little bit, as much as we're able to, available to that newness that wants to come in. So that is the reading for July. I know it's kind of a lot and definitely some tender themes. I really do think, though, that there is something really special waiting for us, and that whatever changes that might start to bubble up this month are happening in the service of connecting ourselves with new opportunities that are right for us, So I hope that we can all be really gentle with ourselves and also know that all of these changes and these themes I've talked about, they might be really subtle for you. They might be really internal. Just us and our own feelings and processes and our own past and our future, and just kind of in that tension point of change. So there's definitely no need to fear that something bad's gonna happen or that you're gonna lose something or someone. Yeah, really the core of the message is just to be open to the heart and its needs, and to do our best to care for ourselves as we embrace the changing of these seasons in our lives, however that's showing up for us. All right. Thank you so much for being here. I am wishing you so much grace and gentleness, and also power and strength. Yeah. See you next time. Bye-bye.